very strong.
Oh, we weren't recording, so we just started. Go ahead.
So I come into the relationship with a very strongly partnered uh, with the principal. So that's a purchase decision that they're already making. So I am not a junior. I am not an executor.
Mhm.
I'm coming in because you're sitting in a bit of a pickle, and I have the skills and the tools and the expertise to extract you from that,
Right.
kicking and screaming into, the future. And so I want to be listened to. I
Yes.
would, I'm here to actually help out. And
Hmm.
that doesn't mean I'm like here to boss everybody around and I'm now suddenly the boss, but I am a strong partner on the systems side of things to bring some clarity and some peace to the and it requires habit change. Often the bigger
Yeah.
habit changes has to happen on the principal side, not on the team side. There's always tension,
Yep.
but it always seems that the team actually has to change some habits too. But there's a lot of habit changes. So um, objective. I almost say that objectivity isn't really a service I sell. It's
Gotcha.
subjectivity is the service I
Very.
sell. And if you're not interested in buying that from me, I am probably not the right fit.
Mm.
Go get somebody junior. If you just want an executor,
Hmm.
then we are, it just doesn't make sense. Why pay my
Gotcha.
prices, first of all?
Yep.
and
Right.
then if we're just going to have, that kind of a role where you just want me to execute, and it can get that way, by the way. And it
Ah,
doesn't mean that it's super combative. It just means that sometimes that's just a time for us to exit the relationship where
right.
it's just
Right.
like, I just want to do what I want to do. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not what I sell. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it also has to do with where the organization is. Like if they're in this position where they're trying to scale, they've got different needs. Like it just, again, it goes back to playing a little bit of a detective, understanding exactly what is the outcome that they're driving for, and if you can actually provide that outcome. And like you said, there's going to be some situations where it's not going to align with where your expertise is, which is fine. So then
yeah,
you just find a different opportunity or they find another person.
yeah.
Why do you think that fractional roles seem to be gaining so much traction right now? Because like when we first met, you told me you'd been doing it for 15 years, and I went, I don't know if I ever even knew the word fractional existed 15 years ago as it pertained to these types of roles. And now everywhere you look, there's a fractional this, there's a fractional that. Like, why do you think that?
Well, I think we've always been secretly like doing our thing. I agree that the word fractional, for me, it's been more like it was definitely pre-COVID, but maybe just immediately pre-COVID
Hmm.
when that word started taking off. But I think so. The sort of the pool that I swim in is those small and growing businesses, and they're fractional all day, every day. All of their positions are non full time.
Gotcha.
Sometimes contractors, sometimes employees, but it's just the workload is the workload, and then we don't worry about trying to situate the workload to be a 40-hour a week workload. It's just that
Hmm.
I have a need for this, I have a need for that. We just plug in the contractors or part-time employees or fractionals at whatever quantity that needs to get the job done. So we've always been around. I think there's just been a lot of there's been a few really great writers over on LinkedIn sort of beating the drum of fractionals and just sort of
Yeah.
heightening that in everyone's brain. They've done an excellent job from a branding perspective because everyone suddenly knows what the word fractional is. And yeah, so I think it's always been around. I think it's going to be around even more because it's just so flexible. I
Yeah.
think it's the weirdest thing in the world to think every time you have a need, it's a 40-hour a week need.
Yeah.
That's weird. That's actually why would that ever be?
Yeah. Yeah.
So fractional is the way to go.
Why and thinking about that, what would you tell somebody who's hesitant to just move into the fractional space?
So because it's yeah, it's rough out here, just so
Yeah.
you It
Yes.
bears some resemblance to full-time chief of staff work, and it bears
Hmm.
a whole bunch of non-resemblance. So I would not encourage anyone to consider fractional until you sit on some expertise,
Right.
um, because you will have to prove your worth against the other, fractionals out there.
Yeah.
So you have to be, why you have to have a good answer for why you.
Yeah.
And some of that can be industry,
Hmm.
expertise. It can be facility with a specific software or something like that. Like I'm the gal who will take you, from, if you're trying to, or like deep SaaS or funding, how to get outside funding and do all of
Yeah.
the block and tackle work to have outside funding come in, Series A, Series B. You can have that kind of expertise, and so you come with other skills and
Hmm.
experience other than that augment your chief of staff core abilities, and that's what you bring to the table. And then the other crazy thing is that you really don't walk around saying you're a fractional this. You're a problem solver. You
Right.
solve this problem. I help Series A's, companies get their blah 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 in order.
Yeah.
And you speak their language, and they go, "Oh my gosh, I have that problem. It sounds like you solve it," and then you go solve it. So that's what you talk
Yeah.
about: the pain point and your solution, not that you're, not your job title.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, and I think so when you think about the role of a chief of staff or even a COO, they're driving a lot of initiatives. That's the thing. And the perspective that you're saying right now is when you're approaching these opportunities, you look at it from an initiative perspective, and you twist that to saying, like you said, I'm solving a problem for you. You need to do this. I know how to do this. This is what the engagement will look like. If we agree that this is, what the outcome is, then this is something that can work. And then it's less about having a title, but more about you're driving to an outcome for a business to help them achieve something that they're incapable of achieving for whatever the reason is.
100%. 100%.
Something that you and I had talked about when we were visiting the other day, specifically around being a chief of staff in the corporate space and being a fractional, and how those of us like me, I've been in the corporate space for a really long time, and there's some, I use the word stability very loosely today, but there's some stability in feeling like I have a corporate job versus what is a perceived instability because I'm doing something fractionally for 12 months or 18 months. And the way that you had couched it really piqued my interest about risk and exposure. I would love for you to explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's, volatility is probably the right word,
Hmm.
and there's hidden volatility and very visible volatility.
Yeah.
And I was telling you the idea of a cab driver, a taxi driver has very visible volatility. So somebody gets in and 20 minutes later they get out and then he needs another customer. So every time he shows up for work, he's going to need 20 to 30 customers a day
Right.
versus an employee. Now you have volatility, it's just all
Hmm.
hidden because you're going to get, or you're not going to, God willing, but there could come a day where you get the phone call.
Yep.
I'd like a 15-minute Zoom, at 2:45 on a Friday. And then suddenly all your volatility, and then it's a big deal for you to go get
Hmm.
another person who pays your who pays your mortgage. And so you've just saved up, 5 years of volatility and had it all sort of peak
Yeah.
at once, where mine come and go every quarter. And so all of my eggs are not in one person's basket, one
Yeah.
client's basket. And I also, it's not a tragedy when one leaves. And
Right.
it's not the biggest deal to, to even introduce the idea that I would exit myself because things aren't working out,
Sure.
because there's always the next one. So you have to build your capacity to have another client.
Right.
It's
Right.
called lead gen. It's a pain in the ass, I will tell you that. But it is one of the things, as a business owner, as a fractional business owner, you have to accept as a key part of your job. So
Yeah.
I am not just doing client fulfillment all week. I am doing a healthy proportion of lead gen, whether that's referrals, like just chit
Yeah.
chatting with folks who can send me referrals, or doing content marketing, or whatever I've decided my lead gen strategy is. But you must be that must be part of your work. It is
Oh,
not always, especially for, I actually find it for us, not always everyone's cup of tea. And it is,
right.
but if you're not doing it, that is a wishful thinking business model. It's not a real business model.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's really helpful to know. What kind of advice would you give somebody who is thinking about getting started in the fractional world? I mean, again, today the market is flooded with extremely qualified people who, through no fault of their own, are finding themselves without employment,
Yep.
and they've got these amazing skills. And so what are the things that you would tell them?
Yeah, I do. I feel, as a longtime fractional, I feel flooded, that there's way more competition
Mhm.
technically,
Mhm.
for the kinds of positions I have. So I think it's really three things. I mean, boiling it down to three things: have considerable experience.
Yeah.
You will have an easier time. I mean, I don't know what else to tell the juniors. I actually think that fractional work is probably not your best. You would be competing on price, really,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
lack of boundaries, frankly. That's
Mhm.
it will sell.
Wow.
I'll hustle. I'll do way more work at a lower price, is unfortunately what you would end up competing on. Make sure you're solving a pain point, that
Yeah.
you have a niche, whether it's a problem specific niche or an industry specific niche. Make sure you have one of those, and then realize that you will spend considerable time on lead gen,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
always and everywhere, always, always.
Yeah. Yeah. Daniela, I saw your question come through, and I think she kind of answered the question for you, but I'm gonna state it again. But I think what you said just now, Karen, was great. Let's go back to
Well,
it.
actually, I have a little bit that I haven't said about that.
Oh, I would love to hear.
See,
So,
so how in the world do you spot the opportunities? I feel
yeah.
like that's one. And for me, and I wonder if it's the same for my compatriot, my fractional chief of staff compatriots, is that it is the other professionals that are around the principal who spot the problem, and they go, you know what, you
Oh.
need a chief of staff. And usually, actually, so one of my best referral pals is a
Hmm.
CMO. She's a fractional chief marketing officer.
Right.
So everyone knows when they have a marketing need. Everyone knows that. Oh my God,
Yes.
I need a marketer. I need a marketing strategist. Well, she'll come in and she sees the train wreck that's going on internally and goes, oh, I ain't touching you. But you
Ah,
know what? If Karen comes in with me, then we can really transform your business, and she'll have an easier
nice.
time as a CMO, because things are planned. So instead of like, hey, let's do, I listened to a podcast last night,
Yeah.
let's change our whole, so that there's actually long-term planning, that there's the
Yeah.
actual metrics, like it's the slow traction
Hmm.
of proper planning cadence is what would make her life much easier. So she frequently sends people my way. And then a CFO would also notice
Gotcha.
and say the same. So they are I always have this like metaphor that you can market to brides or you can market to wedding planners. So brides are the individual people who would end up making the purchase, but there's wedding planners out there who
Hmm.
talk to brides all the time, and you only need two or three wedding planners on your side who know
Yeah.
about you, and suddenly you're going to get the introductions to the brides that you don't even know existed, that you were never reaching with your content marketing or anything like that.
Wow.
So my wedding planners are my CMOs and my
Yes.
CFOs, who spot the problem, whose life would be changed if I came in and helped, and so I get those introductions.
Well, what's nice about what you just said also is that part of that group is they understand what your role is. They
Yes.
understand the effectiveness of utilizing what you do, what your skill set provides. And so for them, it's not even, do I need to find someone? It's, oh no, I know somebody who does this.
Yes.
I
Yes.
already know. I can see, and this is not my cup of tea, So they know what lane they want to be in. They don't want
Yes.
to get into your lane. They know the beauty of being able to work with somebody who's effective in this space. So that, okay, that's awesome. That is awesome. I'm going to pause here for just a second. I do have one slide that I'm going to share with everybody. And then we're going to go into some more questions and a Q&A. So let me get my screen going. Again, I love that you guys are dropping some stuff in there for Karen and I to kind of noodle on. It's just a reminder that this happens once a month, the first Friday of every month. And this is what you're going to get conversations with people who are in this space doing the job every day. So it's not theory, it's the application of everything that you're hearing about a chief of staff. If you're curious about learning more, my link is in the chat. Feel free to set up some time so we can talk. Next month, I just have the best guest. And she's actually on the call right now, Elizabeth Stevens, who military veteran, chief of staff, and is the CTO of her own security company. So you do not want to miss this. You want to catch this. I mean, you want to catch them all. You want to catch all of them. But make sure that if you don't have this on your calendar, that you register, tell your friends, bring a buddy. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to stop sharing my screen for just a moment. We are going to do some more questions. So if you have got questions, go ahead and type them in the chat so I can ask Karen, but I still have more stuff. So I'll be looking for the questions from you. But let me ask you this. How did you land your first fractional, or how do most people land their first fractional client?
Um, I came up through, I was sort of like made my bones up through up into the C-suite. So I
Mhm,
started with kind of doing basic project management, launch management. I was managing like $1 million launches, and
mhm,
trying to just keeping the trains running on time. That is not necessarily my sweet spot. The full implementation management is not. I'm much more of a. I have a strategic brain more than a. Uh, the 100,000 things that have to go right on a
mhm.
daily basis. God bless those people, by the way. I love working with strong project managers, but that was the screaming need that I could fill, and then
Gotcha.
I just ended up being I'm just bossy and mouthy. I just am like, it doesn't have to be this hard. Like, if you had just planned it better, we wouldn't have had all of these execution problems. We
Yeah,
would be earlier for next launch because I want all my hands in making better decisions earlier
right.
so that we don't have this kind of chaos. And I sort of worked my way up to actually being the strategic advisor because because that sets the tone for everything. If we make
Yeah.
really good decisions up there, then the execution gets easier, mistakes get, fewer and fewer, and everyone gets happier and all of that stuff. But it's a systemic fix. And so I just kept
Mhm.
bouncing upstream with my opinions, and then I kept getting, hired hired back to partner with those people who were interested
Gotcha.
actually in setting less fires and having things be smoother.
Nice. So you're saying if you do a lot of planning up front, there's minimal risk and exposure throughout the process? That's a novel idea. Never heard that before. We have a question from Monique. How has being a fractional changed your life from a work-life balance perspective, emotional and professional fulfillment lens? Thanks for the question, Monique.
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see. I'll take them each. So the reason I gig over the internet. That's I started back when it was a crazy, crazy thing
Yeah.
when it first sort of started, which was um the early, 2010, 11, 12 is when I started, when the gig economy started taking off. And I had actually just left a career in government because of really extreme burnout. I was
Mm,
in and out of a war zone for a decade, um, doing counterterrorism. I had really bad PTSD, and I had to. I just couldn't handle it. It was my first love. I had to break up with my
yeah.
first career love, and I moved to the beach and licked my wounds and just tried to figure out what the heck I can do with my life. And
Yeah.
one of the things I didn't want to do was walk into a building at 8 and walk back out at 8. And so I was thinking, like, what can a girl do around here? You can't do counterterrorism from the beach, but hey, there's this thing called the internet. I was taking a one of those, like it was actually B school, if anyone knows what B school is, back in the day. And there were a lot of, entrepreneurs who had an idea that were absolutely terrible at executing. And I was like, oh, but that's my thing. That if there are transferable skills, I can lead projects and
Yeah.
teams through some really gnarly shifting political landscapes, just having people who don't report to me do their work on time,
Yeah.
on budget. I had all of those like raw skills. And so that's what I started selling. I would partner with those people who wanted to
Mhm.
get stuff done in the world who couldn't. And I was the girl who got your stuff done, and then that's how I worked up. So it allowed me to heal. It allowed me to not walk into a building. It allowed me to make some money, and actually, internet money is still kind of crazy money.
Sure.
Especially like I live in Tucson. I don't earn on the Tucson economy. I spend on the Tucson economy, but I don't earn it on it. And so it is different, and that is a big bonus. Um, a work-life balance perspective. I think I struggle with all of the all of the entrepreneurial work-life balances.
Mm. Mhm.
Somebody once said that entrepreneurial math is we would rather work 80 hours a week for ourselves than 40 hours a week for somebody else and call
Yes.
that balance.
Yes. That
So
is,
asterisk on the balance part. I could be insane, who knows? But there is something very that works for me and my type, that I am doing
yep,
what I want to be doing when I want to be doing
right.
it. That works. That kind of flexibility works for me. And then I also have heard that, being an entrepreneur, being a business owner is one of the ways you will most figure out who you are and know yourself,
Mm.
because you are just confronted with all of your blessings and limitations, and all of that stuff will come up and
Yeah.
out as an entrepreneur. So it is one of the world's most, biggest mirrors that you can hang up in front of yourself and figure out who you are and how you move through the world. And you'll have to make compromises, and you'll have to make hard decisions. And it is just really the proving ground for who the heck are you in the world.
Yeah.
So all of that seems to suit me. Um, yeah. So that's
Nice.
my answer there.
One of the things that you said at the beginning that I love is that you said you're going through this period where you're breaking up with your first love, and it gave you an opportunity to heal. And I don't know if we talk about the healing process of work sometimes, because it feels like it's not always healing, it's the means to an end. And I appreciate that you said moving into this space almost was, it sounded like it was almost therapeutic for you. And then you were able to look at that mirror and do the things that matched who you were and look for the opportunities that aligned with your particular value system and find joy in it. 15 plus years, you're good, but you're happy. And that's amazing.
And I think I'm just doing, healing. Healing can be a balm. It can be true healing, but it's also just
Yep.
growing up. I grew up.
Hmm.
I had to face I had to face a lot of things that I was good at, what I was bad at, how I made
Yep.
decisions, the consequences of my own actions.
Yep.
Some of that gets diluted when you're an employee, and you can spread the blame and you can spread the responsibility. But when, you are the, commander of your own ship, you face the consequences of your own decisions and your own
Yes.
blind spots and all of that stuff. And it's just real. I
Yeah.
guess that I choose the harsh reality of entrepreneurship, but it hasn't always been super healing or healthy or think.
Sure.
It's just more real, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you feel like you had to specialize in a certain industry so you could be successful or?
I keep because that's what they harp on. If you listen to
Mhm.
the CMOs out there, the marketing experts, it's niche, niche, niche. The riches are in the niches.
Mhm.
And I completely fail to I've always tried to specialize. And the thing is, I am largely referral based, so I will take all comers. And I
Mhm.
just happen to they just don't pile up like that.
Gotcha.
I would say B2B services are the lion's share, but then I
Mhm.
immediately currently I have B2C. I have two B2C service businesses right now that I'm
Yeah.
serving. And hybrid products, brick and mortar,
Yeah.
they all need the chief of staff vertical slice of work is one of the most durable. We were just saying that it flexes based on your principal, but it's also a durable, repeatable thing, almost no matter what kind of
Mhm.
widget you try to get out the door.
Mhm.
It's just not, the widget almost doesn't matter. It's widget agnostic. Everyone sort of needs that skill set. And so chiefs of staff might have it more lucky than other, than other
Yeah.
C-suiters that we can walk in and add value to a
Yeah.
large number of
And was
these.
there and was there a lot of personal branding behind all of this?
Yes. Yes. In as far as this is who I am, this is who I serve, this is what you're buying when you get
Yep.
me. And you do have to be visible. I mean, I think part of what we're saying when we say personal brand is it's not a resume, folks.
Mm-mm.
It is publishing on LinkedIn and Substack and getting out there and doing a whole bunch of lead gen and talking about what you do. So branding isn't so much like you need a logo and you need a website, which you need probably the website part, but you can maybe get through with just a LinkedIn. But you have to be
Sure.
visible and out there talking,
Yeah.
and trying to drum up business.
Yeah. Looks like we got a few more questions in the chat. This one's from Eric. Oh, this is really interesting. He said, for you, how do you typically structure your pricing? Is it hourly, project retainer, and do you also offer packages?
Yeah. I would again start with a project, which is let
Hmm.
me help you solve an immediate problem
Hmm.
that I would discover on our discovery call. So when
Right.
you would just say, "This is my biggest burning problem." Sometimes it's turning over a certain position. Sometimes it's getting OKRs set up. Sometimes it's it's a whole bunch of different things. And I would usually shape something around there, and price it at a single, like a one rate for the package with specific deliverables. And then I will go, if they're interested and we're both interested in moving on, it's a monthly retainer. There's an hour's expectation so that we all know what we're talking about, but I don't do hourly.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So it's, it's not, it's almost like a not to exceed type
Hmm.
thing, is more how we would do it.
Gotcha. Another question we got from Daniela is how do we sharpen our skills, our resources, and strategy as part of this role? I've got an answer.
Do
Daniela,
it.
Daniela and I chat a lot, but I want you to provide your perspective, and then I'm going to jump in.
My goodness. So how do we sharpen? Um, how do we sharpen them? It's so
Or how do
interesting.
or how do you sharpen your skills? Like, what do you do to sharpen your skills?
So I would feel that I have an approach. I'm lucky because I come in and solve the same problem over and
Hmm.
over and over again.
Hmm.
So I have a totally different yearly experience
Mm,
than a full timer, right? I come in and solve a very specific set of the 0 to 1 problem.
sure.
So I show up with, hey, what type of planning cadence? Like, if you have a favorite, I'll use that. If you don't,
Hmm.
I can set one up. Some people like the traction rocks thing. Some people like OKRs. Some people like something else.
Right.
So I don't. I will actually try to go with it. It all will work. Um, so I will come in with my own template and actually do the work fitting it to the organization and getting everyone on board.
Gotcha.
So for me, where I have to my saw that has to continually get sharpened is all the facilitation skills and the
Hmm.
let's get on board with something better skills, which are kind of the softer skills and not so much the strategy. I'm really, this is a terrible answer, but strategy to me is second nature. I can't
Mm,
help not doing it. So I'm
gotcha.
not really great at how to learn it, how to do it
Hmm.
better, if that makes sense. Because that was one of the things I just showed. Like, it's just like, just listen, like, let's just plan it better. Let's just call me earlier so we can plan it
Yep.
better. Is sort of, and I don't even know how that comes. So I don't know how to
No.
grow in that capacity.
No, I think that's helpful. I think there's a couple of things that came to my mind. For me, when I'm thinking about sharpening my skills and knowledge, uh, I have coaches and mentors who help me. And so that's something that definitely helps color the narrative. And then when I've got specific things that I'm looking at, there are specific individuals that I know are experts in those spaces, and I go to them and I say, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna have a session." I've got one of my mentors who is the most technical person I've ever met. And I tend to work in a lot of technical environments, although I don't do engineering or coding. I don't have that domain expertise, and I'm able to go to that individual for help. And so that's one of the spaces. The other one, for me, my little plug is I have the Chief of Staff Academy, where
Yeah.
there is a plethora of core competencies that every chief of staff needs to understand, regardless of industry. You're going to have to know communications. You have to be able to work with leaders. And so just getting some of those, again, core skills in place is definitely going to help you. But looking at the resources that you have around you, having conversations with individuals, and then being very intentional about when you are hitting somebody up for something so they know, is this just a chat or you actually need some help, and they can help you in that space. It looks like we've got another question from Hillary, and I think you kind of answered this a little bit, but where do most of your referrals come from?
So they are from, I have like I have super referrals and then I
Hmm.
have, occasional referrals. And my super referring people are the CMOs and the CFOs,
Mm,
who can spot the problem right on the team and make a direct introduction. Then the second tier out from that is business owners who've had a positive experience with me, past
hmm.
and present, and they have a
Nice.
friend, and they're tired of their work bestie, sort of, going through the same traction, and they say, you know what, you might want to get on a call with Karen. So
Oh,
it's the CEO to CEO
yep.
network. But honestly, the strongest folks are the CMOs and the CFOs who are already on a team that could use my help.
Awesome. Awesome. We have another question from Monique, and she asked, to be an entrepreneur, you had to hone your sales skills. What actions did you take or resources you consumed to help in this area? That's a great. Oof.
Yeah, it is great. It you can't. There's no business without closing a
Yeah.
sale. So I would say that I am a modest closer. I am not a heavy closer. I'm just not. That's just not how I am. How I am.
Yeah.
Um, on a discovery call, I really am trying to see if you have a problem
That I can help with. And if I can't, if your problem is something else first, I will always just refer you to the somebody else.
Hmm.
So I don't actually walk around thinking that everyone has a has a problem Karen can solve. Um, but I would also say that I have consumed content, just like from sales experts and things like that, and I
Sure.
have found it generally not particularly helpful. Um,
Mm,
Only because I just don't close that way, I guess. I
gotcha.
just don't. I don't have the volume, and I don't have the. If you aren't a heck yes to work with me, I am not chasing you down. So I do get people who ghost after the proposal gets sent. And
Hmm.
the thing is, it requires a lot of work, of internal work on the principal to
Yeah.
have me come in and start changing things. And if you aren't a heck yes, like if your pain point isn't as painy that you're still thinking about it, I am not coaxing you into a yes. I will
Gotcha.
take your no because I don't want your 6 weeks from now it's going to turn into a major problem. So I want you all in. Where's the buy button? Send me the invoice. That kind of thing are the folks that I do best with. I learned that the hard way.
Yeah.
I learned that the hard way. The halvesies, I guess my friend said that I should be working with you is
Oh,
not the person that you want to sell to. So basically, yeah, you have to show up in my inbox with this screaming pain point, and then
yeah.
I can get you to say yes. I should write a book, right? That is the how to have a tiny business that will never grow past X. It will be the title of my book, but I am happy there. So it works for me.
I think that's really healthy. I think, and the reason that I say that that's really healthy is because all of us have been in a situation where we have worked in some kind of a capacity, whatever it is, and it wasn't where we wanted to be. And so we kind of putted along. We did what we could. We were sort of surviving. And having your own business, you can be selective. And there are people who will be all in with you. So why not go after those individuals who are all in? Because then it makes doing the work so much more rewarding because you're both in the trenches. It's not just this housey, wishy-washy thing, but it's Karen, we're in this. Yep, we are in this. Let's do it. Let's definitely do it. And so I appreciate that you are very intentional about who you're going to work with because every dollar is not a good dollar.
Heck yeah. Heck yeah. It makes my life harder. So that lowers the bar for my sales skills. You
Mm-hmm.
basically are screaming that you have a pain point, and I go, oh, okay, let me just shape a retainer. So it's almost the fulfillment side is most of the work that I do because you've already made the decision that you have a pain point that you need to get solved.
Right.
So yeah, my sales skills are basic, and but they again, I will stay small, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gets the job done. So we have 2 minutes left. I want to tell you thank you, thank you, thank you. You and I are going to chat on another call anyways together because that's just what we do. I want to give you the last minute to say, any closing remarks or anything that you'd like to share with our lovely folks who have stayed with us the whole call. So that's been just beautiful and delightful for me.
Well, thank you for your questions. I am super interested in just sort of, I would love to connect with you on LinkedIn, first of all, anyone who's on the call. And if you're interested in fractional, I'm just sort of nosy that way. If anyone's seriously considering it, hit me up with a message, and then we can chit chat some more. I'd like to know who's out there, and perhaps there's work I can send you.
Awesome, awesome. If you folks who want to connect with Karen, if you go back to the LinkedIn, I have added her for each one of these. So you should be able to just click on her name and it'll open up her page. And what a wonderful way to end the call with an invitation to connect with you. So thank you, Karen. Thank you, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. I always enjoy talking to Karen. So for me, it was like an added treat to be able to chat with you some more. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And folks, we will see you next month when we've got, again, Elizabeth Stevens, who will be our guest. So thanks again.